Hello, my name is Leah Gedahoon, and I'm your host for this episode of College and Career Readiness Podcast. Today we're joined by Norma Alcala with the League of Women Voters. Before we start our interview, remember to take control of your future. Join the California Army National Guard and serve your community during local and state emergencies. You'll learn marketable skills, earn a paycheck, and get money for school. Contact Sergeant Aquino today at 916-233-7615. So Norma, let's start off by having you explain your role in the organization you work for.
Okay, thank you. Well, the League of Women Voters is primarily focused on civic engagement and getting out the vote by having people register to vote.
All right, so why do you think voting is so important, especially for the youth?
Well, I think for the youth, it's going to be very critical. You know, my generation was part of the baby boom generation, and we made a lot of changes in our voting. By voting, changes in our country that changed the social fabric. And we were a huge wave. We made a lot of great, changes in the country. But the current youth population is a tsunami. It's 10 times larger than we ever were. And yet, we were finding that many young people do not exercise their right to vote. In the 18 to 24-year-old range, only about 8% vote. Older people like me, we vote in the 60th percentile. So I tell them, who do you think the politicians are listening to? So it's really important because this is your future, and it's time for you to be making those choices and those decisions about where you want this country and your lives to go.
And I know you mentioned you're a school board member, so does that kind of have to do with your decision of targeting the youth?
Yeah, I believe it really does. I think my passion is, in public education and empowering our young people through, voting and more knowledge. And as a school board member, I know that this has been one of the focuses that I've had, making certain that all high school students understand how important it is to vote and to making certain that they're proactive by registering to vote. So I have been doing this not just in my own district, but we go around to different districts. And we really want new leadership, and that new leadership exists in these high schools in your leadership classes. So it shouldn't be something that I'm doing or that necessarily the league does, although we're happy to help, but it's something that needs to become institutionalized in the high schools, where every year your leadership, grows by having your leadership teams out there and doing the registrations and discussing and sharing with each other why the youth vote is so critical, because at some point it's no longer going to be the youth vote. You guys are going to be the majority of people in this country making decisions for us. Many of you not just voting, but actually being those individuals who make those decisions, whether it's on a school board, a city council, maybe even a state elective office, and why not a national office someday? Mm-hmm.
So I was in the leadership class that you were talking to, and you said something really interesting about billionaires and how we could outvote them, and I kind of wanted you to elaborate on that because I thought that was really interesting.
Right now, you have 1%, who are the billionaires in this country, that actually have 99% of the wealth in this country. Well, they're a very small number. You can probably, there'd be about 1,000 of them. When you look at the power they have, they are able to, they do control much of what goes out in the media. And they would never have this much power if, they are the ones who get people elected to these offices. They would never have this much power if the people all voted, especially the youth vote. You guys are huge in numbers. You guys are in the millions. Can you imagine if millions of young people voted? This 1% would have no power. They would have no power. Their numbers are so small. But they do continue to have this power because they have put out advertising, and they have put out this mindset that your vote is not important. They've, in a way, brainwashed a lot of people into thinking that their votes are not important. But if you come together collaboratively with your millions of votes, they would have no power in this country. And the power base would shift completely to the population, who would be electing people who are voting in their interest to make things better for them, not for that 1%.
All right, and I'm 16, my audio manager is 17, so we can't vote right now, but why would you think it's important for us to at least pre-register?
One of the reasons that we feel that pre-registration is really important is because we want to create a culture of voting. We have a very incredibly intelligent one by the name of Dr. Mindy Romero, who has told us that if you start voting when you're young, you get into that habit, so it becomes very normal for you to vote. If we don't get you in high school to understand the importance of voting and getting into the habit of voting, we're going to lose you for about 29 years. You won't come back to the voting booth, and that's bad. If you start voting in high school and even younger, you get into the culture of voting, and get into the process of voting, whether it's in school elections. What happens is we get you back voting in regular elections within 7 years. So this is very important. Not only in high school, we're actually hoping it starts even before high school, when you're in kindergarten. I know we have people who have, school elections. From the very time kids are in kindergarten, they get to elect their little class rep. And whether it's voting on, what the flavor of the week will be, it presents an opportunity for people to take part in democracy. And this is what our country needs to do. They have to be able to exercise their power as a people by getting engaged in voting. And we need to teach our children that at a very early age.
So one final question. You are here on behalf of the League of Women's Voting. I said
Women
that right?
voters.
Yeah. So you guys are obviously pushing the vote in high schools. What else do you guys do to push the vote?
Well, we also ask young people, to be informed. We encourage them to get involved in local elections. One of the things I used to do with my children, for example, is we would have pizza, popcorn, and politics parties. We would invite their friends over who were getting ready to vote, and they were like, oh my gosh, who do I vote for? Look at all these propositions. We don't know. Politics can be a fun event. It's also a very important event. What we would do is we would get everyone to come over. My husband and I would provide popcorn and pizza, and we would discuss with everyone there. They had their ballots, and we would discuss the different politicians, what we'd heard. We would discuss the different ballots, a pro and con argument, and it helped to better inform everyone about, the things that they were voting on. So this is one of the things also the League of Women Voters does encourage. They hold forums, where sometimes they invite candidates to speak and present their views. And the League of Women Voters is very proactive in a lot of stuff, but it's not just the League. We are actually part of a much larger forum of other organizations who come together in a nonpartisan manner to do presentations in the high schools. We want you to vote. We know how important your vote is. You should have a say in your future. It should not be up to the older people to make all the decisions in this country. And this is something that we feel is very critical. That's the reason we spend our time. We don't get paid for it. We're all volunteers. We come out here. And the reason we do is I want my grandchildren. My granddaughter just started high school this year over in my district. And I want all of you to have a better future, And I want to be able to sit back when I'm much older, and know that my country is in good hands because you're informed and you have exercised your right to vote.
Get the skills to be a beauty professional. We offer hands-on training alongside creative artists and industry leaders in a fully equipped modern salon through our cosmetology, barbering, and aesthetics program. Call 916-418-7223 or visit federico.edu and start your new career today.